Hello plant friends, my name is Victoria and you're watching Plantastics. Are you ready to grow African violets that thrive with minimal effort? Wicking Systems can make watering easier and keep your plants happy and healthy. In this video, I'll show you how to set up a simple wicking system and share tips to keep your violets blooming beautifully. Let's get started, roll the intro. In today's video, I'll be sharing 4 tips to set up wicking and make sure your violets have the water continuously like they would in the wild. So first of all, you're going to want to pick a wick and a reservoir. First, you're going to be choosing a wick. So the material does matter. There needs to be either nylon or acrylic. That's the most ideal choice because that will not be rotting. But if you do plan or know that you're going to be repotting your violets every 3 to 6 months, you can use organic materials like cotton. The second step is choosing the right pot and soil. So many people know that African violets are very beautiful, they stay compact, but people don't realize that they're epiphytic plants. These plants really enjoy shallow pots, so whereas most pots are pretty deep, you're going to want to either cut or find pots that are more shallow than they are deep. Because if you have really deep pots, there's going to be tons of water at the bottom where the African violet's roots are just not going to grow, and that's going to lead to root rot. Something else to consider is that the inner pot, is going to need to have holes so that way you can put and thread through the wick. Next is honestly probably one of the most important parts, and that is the soil mixture. When you're using a wicking pot, you're going to have more even moisture, which is a recipe for disaster if you only use soil. But if you use 50-50 perlite and soil, you're going to have the perfect mixture and your violets are going to thrive. The perlite ensures that the roots have proper oxygenation throughout the soil. Compacted soil can smother roots because there's just not the ability for air to get through. Third is setting up the wick. You're going to want to put the wick in the very center of the pot, and you can have both ends or one end into the pot. You want the wick to rest in the water, so you want it to be completely submerged no matter what water level you're at. Of course, if it's empty, it won't be submerged. Something else is that you want to make sure that your wick is able to absorb water. Sometimes things get crusty or old and they're just not able to absorb things. Also, the diameter of the wick is going to determine and dictate how much water it's delivering to the soil. So you might want to do some trial and error. If you have a thicker wick, don't worry, you can just have one end in the water. And if you have one that's like medium or a smaller diameter, you can have both ends. And that's just something you can play around with. The fourth thing is adjusting and monitoring your wicking system. So one of the things you're going to want to look out for is you do not want the bottom of the pot resting in the water. That's going to provide too much moisture and kind of defeat the purpose of wicking. Wicking ideally is going to take all the guesswork out of watering your violets. Something else is that you're going to, as the plant matures and grows those roots into that soil, you're going to water more frequently, but you're going to watch. So I like to draw like a line, like a fill line on my reservoirs if I make them myself. And basically that allows me to see how and where I can fill it to. So that way it's not coming into contact with the bottom of the pot. Something else to consider is how high the mineral content is in your tap water. If it's really high, you can mix it half distilled and half tap water. So that way it's not too hard on the roots. But luckily, they're not like Miltoniopsis orchids. Mineral content isn't going to harm them too much. And if you are using tap water consistently, you can use a mister and go around the perimeter and flush out with distilled water once every 2 to 3 months. I do this regularly and I see a noticeable difference in violets that I remember to do this on and violets that I don't. You also want to make sure that your soil is adequately moist. If it's damp and wet, you may want to go for a smaller diameter pot. Whenever you're using wicking, you kind of just want to have a smaller pot in general. It's called potting down, which is where you're going to be putting the pots a little bit smaller than what you would normally if you were using only soil. Lastly, be aware of seasonal conditions. So in your first year of wicking, you probably will be learning and paying attention to several things. You may notice that violets, when they're blooming, are going to require more water, or when they're producing peduncles, which are the cute little tiny buds, that they're requiring more water. Something else is that when violets are kind of ready for a repot, they are also going to require more water because their roots are completely filling the soil. So with wicking pots, I recommend repotting every 3 to 6 months. Of course, not everyone can do that, but if you're growing to show or really trying to get your violets to just bulk up and grow quickly and be huge show-worthy violets, that's what I recommend. But otherwise, just do as often as you can. But if you notice that your violet's not blooming anymore or putting out new growth, you may want to investigate further and look into it. So as you can see, these 4 points can ensure that your wicking system with your violets is completely amazing. No more guesswork, and now you can have thriving violets. And it's just really cool because you don't have to really think about it other than maybe once a week filling up the reservoir. I also encourage you to experiment and try to find what works for you. I live in the southern US, which means that I have super high humidity and run the air a lot, so I have to water plants a little quickly because the air conditioner is just sapping the water out of the air. Thank you for watching. With the right materials, care, and setup, your violets can thrive with a wicking system. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe and comment your tips and questions. As always, I'll be seeing you next time. Goodbye.